been having some really good turnout, so that's been great.
This is my first time, so I'm excited.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you, Donna. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I noticed like everyone really normally comes in by like 2:05, so I'm just gonna wait just a moment.
Hey, Nick, this is Carla. I have truly loved this. I mean, every week there's so much value, so thank you.
You're so welcome, Carla. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. It's these calls like I didn't realize how much I would love them, to be sometimes you say, do I know the answers? Do we know can I help these people? Right? Like, we do ask ourselves that, and then after the first one, I was like, we're doing this, this is totally happening. So it's been great. Hey, Mason,
Nick. How you doing, my friend?
doing great, brother. Doing great, man. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. We're actually just about to get started here. I'm going to give us to probably about 2:04 before we really get up and running. Um, so some people have been late a little bit, or everyone's figuring out their Zoom and stuff. Sure, my stuff set up. Speaking of which,
I like the email reminders, Nick.
those come in. I had a company set all this up for me. So, I sleep up and I'm like, are there email reminders going out? So I'm actually so glad. Guys, being an entrepreneur, I want to start another group call for entrepreneurship, right? In general. Entrepreneurship is its whole own monster out. Real estate investing is just what lives inside of entrepreneurship, right? And just while we wait for a couple more people to log on, I'm just going to ramble about life and growth and scaling. And you like I've dealt with so many problems in my life. And I thought I dealt with all of them. And then, as this company grows,
In progress.
I keep realizing there's a lot more problems coming down the pipeline for me, and it's fun, and and they're problems of success, right? And problems of success are confusing. I mean, it's like, well, it's working to a degree. This thing's breaking, but I'm trying not to get upset about this thing that broke because so much is still going so great. But I just want to share, the entrepreneur journey. I'm almost 8 years in now, and man, there's just something new all the time. And as soon as something goes stable, you got to fire someone that you thought was going to be there forever, and you're like, oh my God, what happened? It's fun. And, one thing I would say, this is why, you guys might look at, my energy or my positivity. I just try to view it all as an adventure, is what I try to do. And, and I got my armor on and I got my battle axe, and I'm just swinging, and rather than maybe taking it so seriously and everything, but it's like, I'm prepared for this. I remember when I was a restaurant manager, that me and this other general manager would have a joke with each other that we learn to swing the battle axe while swinging the battle axe. And the reason why we say that is because every customer interaction you are in battle, right? There really is not that big of a test realm for entrepreneurship. It's always live ammunition, being shot. But it's been a great journey, and every day I'm so thankful for it. And it's interesting. We're really growing here now. At Lead Mining, two I got two executives on the team now. I've got two more layers of leadership underneath them, and that's growth. Normally it's just me sharing my vision with the people that do. Now I have to share. This is important for all of us, especially those with acquisition managers, right? Because we now have to share our vision with the people that manage the people that do. And I have to really make sure that they understand. I think I have to make sure that they understand what's happening. And they might say, yeah, yeah. But they might not, right? And so I think that one of my big lessons, what I'm working on is, is this person listening to me? Or does this person really get what I'm saying? Because now they're impacting 10 people. Before it's just me impacting 10 people, right? Now I am. Um, so I just want to share what's ahead, right? As you guys grow, growth is confusing. You're like, well, I finally hired the person. Doesn't that mean all my problems magically vanish? And it doesn't. That's actually just the beginning. Because now you have to make sure you're doing your job and you have to make sure they're doing their job. And that's, it's a full circle moment. And this was definitely not a sales pitch, but that's exactly why lead mining is here. When you guys hire us, we really are like, I think if I added it up, we're like my team on every order just to set up a cold calling campaign takes them an hour. Just clicking, uploading lists, not the skip tracing, not the list pulling, just setting up the campaign, making sure we have the right script, making sure the time zones are set up. And it's like, that's one of the main benefits, I guess, of hiring a managed service, is that you don't have to worry about all those layers. I have 35 employees and about 7 of them are executed on each order. So you guys don't have to worry about that team of 7 and now what they're doing as a micro function and stuff. The good news is I'm actually better with the 7 micro employees, and now with the layers of leadership, it's definitely been a fun experience. Anyways, I'm done rambling. We'll get started here. Entrepreneurship is
I want to say something really, really fast.
Yeah.
You say, I think about when you say that, I get stressed out because it's ever changing. But then I have to remember the reason I got into this is because it's ever changing, because I don't want to be bored with the same old mundane 9 to 5 going to the boss and doing the thing.
right.
So when I think, God, I don't know if I chose the right thing, I got to get out of this. This is driving me nuts. I'm stressed out. I don't know when the next deal's coming in. And then I think it is ever changing. And that's why we have to be able to be flexible and then be grateful and thankful that we get the opportunity. Then instead of it being God, I'm so stressed out, I've got another opportunity in front of me. So
Right.
I'm done now. I got the whole hour's worth in that first round.
Yeah. Well, and what you're saying is so important, and we do have to remember why we're here. So I'm listening to this great book I recommend to everyone called The Untethered Soul. Okay. And what it does in short is the untethered soul teaches you how to train your thoughts, right? And some of our thoughts just rattle on about everything and they're negative. We might not be negative, but this thing that happens in our head can be negative and it can shift our perspective on everything that we do. I had a client say to me yesterday, he said, Nick, before we go, you got any ninja advice for me? And I said, never talk yourself into hating these leads. I said, these leads are just like a relationship with a loved one, a family member, or a close friend. If you start telling yourself that you don't like things about a family member, your mother, your father, your sister, every time you get around that person, they're going to wear you down. Every time. And we do the same thing with leads. This lead sucks. This one's not going to work. That one's not hot enough. And I said, whatever you do, don't speak hatred over these leads. If anything, tell yourself, we don't have enough information. We got to go in there with the positive attitude, and I think that book, The Untethered Soul, talks to us about how we train our brain. And one of the subjects is our brains just want comfort. So even though what you're saying, Kathy, is our bodies want spontaneity, right? Ours like, you know what? I sat at a desk for 40 hours a week. I don't want to do that shit anymore. Okay. But then we don't do it anymore. And we're like, damn, I wish I had the stability of
That
sitting at a
fucking
desk.
check.
Right, right. But with that stability comes mundanity. Oh, I just made that word up. But comes with a level of like mundaneness as well. And this is why we do what we do. Now, the goal of, so you brought up something, you were like, the obstacles and the struggles and the curveballs, all that's great. The beauty of it is, and this is my passion, is continuing to do what's working. Right? We are going to fail our asses off. It is I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have changed the contract. I should have read that. Right? That's okay. I have a saying in my company. If that's the last time we ever make that mistake, we won. We won. Now, if we make that mistake next week, I'm going to be furious. Okay. I only want to make mistakes once, and so I think that's the other part. So as we fail forward, as we have to be so flexible, we actually pay attention to the things that we do that are working. And then as we create a list of what does work and what doesn't work, we start to create bumpers. And inside of those bumpers is that comfort zone again. And that's what's really important. That's what I want you guys to start paying attention to. We learn what to do, we learn what not to do. We live right there in the middle. And then life starts getting easier. At lead mining, every system we have, we've done it wrong at one point or another outside of that. Right. And then we've ended up refining it. But so that's again, that's the fun, that's the passion. And then on top of it, it makes you money. And then life starts to get easier. Now I'm realizing, like you're saying, I love the creative journey. So let me respect that so much, not to get frustrated, because it's frustrating. But now I need to not get frustrated and be like, this is what you signed up for, right? No matter what. All right, guys, we'll get started. Does anyone have any final topics on that? I know we covered a bunch of stuff before we move on. All right, rock and roll. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We got the usual leaders here. Mason McDonald showed up. Mason, if you want to spend a minute and introduce yourself to everyone so they know who this awesome advice is coming from.
Thanks, Nicholas. Awesome advice is relative, but Mason McDonald, I've been a full-time land investor for 2.5 years now. My previous background was I was the CEO of a hospital here in Colorado Springs. So have experience managing a 9-figure P&L and took that experience and applied it into this entrepreneurial world. Scaled pretty quickly. I got lucky on my first deal. I made 6 figures on my first land flip. Since then, I've generated multiple 7 figures in revenue from this company. But what I ran into as an issue in this business, just like everyone is access to capital. So I started out contacting private lenders and raising money in that way, and then recognize how much of a need there was in the community. So I've launched a fund recently, raising money from accredited investors, in which we deploy and partner in deals with land flippers constantly. Currently reviewing a deal right now, I think from someone in this call on this group out in Texas, but we provide joint venture capital partnerships. We're not lenders. If you get a deal under contract and it's a good deal, we will do a 50-50 profit split with you. We provide all the capital. You assign the deal to us. We manage the entire deal. We market it, work with the realtor, work with the title company, and you get paid out at the end of it. So it's almost like you get a back-end assignment, which typically is going to make you more money than a front-end assignment deal if you're wholesaling. So I'll put a longer intro in the bio, or sorry, I'm doing too many things at once right now. I'll put a longer intro in the chat box, as well as relevant links on how we can work together. But here to help and provide advice, whether it's simple land flips, because I do them all day in my own company, or funding opportunities and how we can work together in that capacity.
And then just to let you guys know, Mason is one of our bigger clients that we have at Lead Mining. He uses us. That's how he found us as a client. We ended up becoming friends, and then he ended up creating this business as well. And, you know, and he was like, hey, I'd love to come and add value, and I can help these people close their deals with even less liability than they had previously. So I thought that it was a really cool match. And then, you know, he shows up here and spends his time and shares his knowledge throughout these coaching calls too. So you'll be hearing from me and him and Francisco as well. Thank you, Mason, for being here, brother.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And the other one up is Francisco. Francisco, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit about your experience, what you do.
Sweet. So yeah, guys, my name is Francisco. I've been a licensed realtor for 5 years, but going into year 3 is when I transitioned 100% into doing land. I often tell the truthful joke that now you couldn't pay me to go out and tour houses with anybody, because land was a pretty much full-time gig for me now. And one of the things that I enjoy about land is it's actually helped me, find a gateway into kind of like software development, automations, which is really where my passion lies, and also contributing to the community as well too. I think one of the things that I love about this group is obviously we get to pour back and give feedback to the community. But one of the things that I like also is this is also a learning experience for me as well too. Because I get to learn from Nick, I get to learn from Mason. So it's almost just kind of like a dual role that I'm in too. Like I know that I have a lot of experience, but I also know that there's a lot that I need to know in order to continue to grow. So I love being in an environment where it could be reciprocated both ways as well too.
Awesome. And yeah, Francisco is a huge asset and has been, you know, ever since, you know, we found each other. You know, he knows a lot of his stuff about land. He's also techie like me, you know, and we found that, you know, being techie and being skilled in real estate aren't always a combo. One of the things that made me shine as a restaurant manager is I was a huge computer nerd. And, you know, restaurant management isn't normally full of techie people. And, you know, it really shined. So one thing I would say too, guys, is, you know, freshening up your computer skills, your Excel skills and stuff will really take you much further. You'll be able to do and move things much faster than those around you. And I'm not very good at it, but with YouTube, they don't call it YouTube University for nothing. I could watch a 10-minute video on Excel and learn something I haven't known, and I use it every day of my life. So definitely just want to drop that nugget on you guys. And, you know, we're going to get started here. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. In the meantime, I'll go around the room for the people that have their cameras on. Sorry to doubly pick on you. But I'll go ahead and ask you guys if you have any questions. You can hit me with your most pressing questions. If you don't have anything, that's totally fine too. But feel free to ask anything about whether it's entrepreneurship, real estate investing, or lead generation as well. All right, and then we got first timer here, Donna Marty. So Donna, you're up next. You're the top one with your video on. So you got any questions for us?
Oh, goodness. That's an open-ended question. I don't really have any right now that I can think of. However, I was just listening to Francisco. Is that isn't how you pronounce it? So I'm licensed as well. I've been licensed, I think, going on 6 years. And land is one of the things that my husband and I are doing this together. Land is one of the things that we really want to start focusing on. Traditional real estate is not my thing. I prefer not to have to be out there working with buyers and sellers if I don't have to. And I do enjoy the investment end of it. But we've been investing since 2017, just basically residential. So it is going to be a transition, but that's what we're ready to do. So I don't know if he puts his contact information out there or not, but if there, I don't know, do y'all have like a separate Facebook group or anything with people within this?
You know, I don't yet, but that's definitely a great idea. What do I have? Yeah, you know, I have that online community area. But that's a great question. You know, I think maybe a Facebook group based around this would probably be wise. That way we are creating a community, right? We're seeing the same faces here every week. Look at you. I'm supposed to be providing value to you, Donna, and here you are providing value to me. But no, we'll definitely get that done. But in the meantime, Francisco can reach out to you. He does work also with me at Lead Mining, so he does have your contact info. I can make sure that he reaches out to you as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. And then any questions as well?
I don't think I have any at
Okay.
this time.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And, you know, just to reinforce, you know, your land decision, which is why we're all here. People call me and they ask me, and I know we're here for land and houses and what, and we welcome all of it. People like, Nick, what, you know, because they come to me and I have a lot of stuff about land on the website. So even house guys were like, well, you know, what's this land stuff? And I just say, in short, being the lead generator, if I were to choose either, it would be land, right? And now being the one that's providing all the leads, I think that says a lot. Number one, they're both numbers games, right? So I've learned that my clients close 1 in 12 to 18 house leads or 1 in 12 to 18 land leads. It's the same closing ratio. So if I can put 4 times as many land leads in your hands as I can house leads, you know, why mess with that? Additionally, the legwork, the emotional legwork that we have to do. You know, houses mean people get embarrassed about houses. I'll tell you one thing a lot of people don't realize about houses is ownership shame. Okay. You know they ran that house into the ground. You know, they're ashamed of the neglect that they've applied to a property. So you have to sometimes be so vulnerable with another homeowner that they're willing to share what they've let go to shit, you know, and that's tough. That's tough on a new relationship. You know, you ever tell someone you met within 3 weeks something you completely neglected and cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? In the end, that's a hard pill to swallow. Well, guess what? With land, we're not swallowing those pills. You know, we don't have to have those conversations about neglect and shame and, oh, I let the property go or anything like that. It's, hey, I don't want this. I was going to do this with it. I'm not anymore. It's become a nuisance. I don't want it. So the next benefit of land not only is of quantity, but is difficulty, right? Way lower difficulty, way lower barrier to entry. We don't have to play all these mental gymnastics, whether it's comping properties, getting inspections on roofs or kitchens or plumbing. We don't have to do any of that with land. So just a couple of benefits there to reinforce your decision to move. The simplicity is also great. All right, Sherry, I got you up next on my screen. You got anything for us today?
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. How you
Good.
doing?
I'm good. I'm just chipping away at the contracts I have. I've got 3 I'm working on right now, and I don't really have any burning questions.
Okay.
I have one that's kind of interesting. It's a great parcel of land, 6.5 acres, and I thought it would sell immediately. There's nothing wrong with it. I just found out there's a huge chicken farm a mile down the road, and the prevailing winds bring the
Mm,
smell to the property.
wow.
I just never, it's always something new in this business that
Right.
you know, you can't, I never would have thought of scoping out the larger area to that degree to see if there are smells around. But
Right.
I've had 2 people say they can't buy it because of that. So I'm
Wow.
not sure where to go with it, but just
Yeah.
lower the price and get rid of it, I'm
Well,
sure.
well, yeah. And you know, and this kind of goes back to me sharing the adventure of entrepreneurship earlier, right? And it's almost like, well, what opportunities are possible? You know, I need to sell this now to someone who's not going to live there. Let me sell
Yeah.
it. Let me sell it to a bigger chicken farm. Let me sell it to, you know, so the one thing that comes up for me is, you know, maybe it changes the offloading or your desired offloader, right? And you know, one thing is, as soon as we start looking for something different, we find exactly what we're looking for a little bit too sometimes.
Mhm.
But no, that's interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, you told me last time, I believe you mentioned you closed a couple deals with us, and now you have 3 more under contract. Is that the
Yeah. Yep.
well, well,
From
that's awesome.
your campaigns.
Oh
Yep,
wow.
I've had some of the leads I get, I look at the property and it's not good land. Like there's no road access. It's
Right.
just not, it just seems too difficult to get involved with. There's not, you know, whatever
Yeah.
they say, not enough juice in the squeeze. But
Yeah, right.
so I don't pursue all of them, but the ones I have been great.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
I'm
That's awesome.
starting to get a little more choosy about
Right.
my land
Well, yeah,
parcels.
once the law of supply and demand starts flipping, right? You're like, okay, cool. You know what? When there's not a lot of supply, the demand is high,
Yeah.
and now they're coming in more. And you know what? I need to do. You know, a lot of people mention the no road access. Mason, a great idea for us is we need to find someone that's looking for that. There's somebody out there. There's always someone for something, right? I want to find, and then, like I said, you put it out there, you find it. I want to find a nationwide no road access land buyer. Okay. Because I had two conversations today, and these guys were like, could you filter that out? Is that a thing? Da, da, da. And to be honest with you, we can filter it out. So I'm just going to go on a slight tangent about filters real quick. The downside of filters is we're now leaving room for error. Okay, when you begin to over filter a list or throw in these micro filters, what's going to happen to all the pieces of land that are mislabeled, right? We're going to miss all of those. And then when you ask yourself, well, how much? And so what I tell clients is, like this client today, for example, I was like, I would just purchase a campaign and see how much it comes up. If it comes up at a nominal degree, I wouldn't do it. But my fear as a lead generator is the one person I accidentally scrub off that list is the one person I really want to speak to. And so, like, based off those philosophies, I was like, I'd rather have it than leave it up to chance, because what that also means is, like, any property, here's what also filters me. Any property that's not labeled is just automatically going to be excluded now. When in reality, that not labeled property could be exactly what you're looking for. And then the other thing you have to think about is how many other people are filtering that same thing. The wider our list, the more opportunity we have for a unique seller, right? Like someone that's actually not on everyone else's list. I have some people call me and they go, I want to stack 7 lists on top of a list, right? And I'm like, well, that's fine, but you're going to get this really tiny list, and everyone else is doing that. Right. So then when you start doing that now, because now they're being hit by everyone pursuing all 7 of those lists, let alone stacked up. So just some the mathematics of it. Now, the good news is I'm here to help you guys gauge if this is a good lead flow or a bad lead flow. So you can come to me, hey, if the numbers are low, let's go to a stack list. Let's try combos. Let's try more distressed. But if the numbers are great while we're going broad, I would never, ever suggest going narrow. If the numbers are great while you're broad, never go narrow. You're just losing so much. So that's the last thing I'll say about that.
Well, and they could have an easement too, Nick, and it's not, I've ran into a ton of them like that. No road access, but they have an easement. It's just not either properly recorded, or like we talked about last week, it's not recorded at all,
Right.
but they have it.
Right.
One of the issues I had with I had some no road access properties in my last campaign, and they were beautiful parcels of land on a river, all waterfront. And I thought about taking them on, but the problem that I saw quickly was that it was at least a half a mile to even get to them from the main road. I think even a little more. So just getting a road in there is a huge cost, and pulling utilities down to the river from the main road. So that was really the issue, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all different.
Yeah, right. And that's why, and to your point earlier, when the leads are flowing, we don't go after the puzzles.
Yeah.
Right. When we got a lot of leads, and this goes for everyone, when you grab fruit off the tree, you go for the lowest hanging fruit first. All right. And then you go for the next highest and close those deals. Now, guess what? There's no more deals to close. Who was that one guy that was a little rude, but still said he wanted to what's he up to now? All of a sudden, I don't have 3 properties. And so then and then our skills increase through that. Right. I think that's also a great practice. Now, a true machine converts everything, but in the beginning, we convert the easiest, we gain the confidence, we go to the next level, we gain the confidence, we go to the next level. In the end, we now have all the confidence and the processes from the easy to the difficult. and then we just put them through that machine. That's kind of what I was saying earlier about processes a little bit. Is when we create the systems, after we do it a couple times and see it, we're like, okay, I just have to duplicate this over again. One last thing, a point I meant to share earlier, this one thing I did in restaurants was I took all of my complaints, and I had all my complaints. Like when we got emailed a complaint, which was more than I care to admit, I'd put them on the wall. But when we got compliments, I'd put them on the wall as well. So I had both, and I had a big line in between them, so my employees could see, here's what we got complimented on, here's what we got complained about. And my thing was like, what one person hates, everyone hates. What one person loves, everyone loves. And that's why I hung everything up. I was like, we need to go over these because, oh, this person loved it when we brought the check out with a coupon. Okay, great. Well, that's great for us. That also brings them back in another time because now they get a coupon. So it's like, great. Well, we're going to do that more often now. Why wouldn't we? Okay, great. Oh, this person hated it when, the uniform looks sloppy. All right, great. Well, uniform standards are a big deal. Now, I'm not just like the big mean manager saying, did you wash your clothes today? Which I know that sounds stupid, but you actually have to say that a lot. Now I'm like, look, this person clearly stated they hate dirty clothes. So it's like, it helps you guys create uniformity, and it helps you understand, to keep doing what is working and stop doing what isn't. All right. I don't see any other hands raised, but I do have Joe Canto over here. Joe, ready to go, Canto. What's up, Joe?
Let me unmute real quick. Hey, how you guys doing?
Great,
Interesting that we talked about no access, because I just ran into that with a deal. I actually got called from a sign I had out, and I mean, she ended up discounting land. But one thing to learn about that is if you're local to the property, is go drive it, park near, walk around it. The neighbors will eventually walk out and talk to you because they know who you are. And at that point, you can ask them, who owns this, what have you. The good way around that is if you can get that neighbor to agree to let you use that road, all you need is that sheet of paper, and then now you have access. And then when you go to resell it, you have, a signed piece of paper that it's permission to use that easement, and you don't have any issues then. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of people think, well, the surveyor says no access, it's not been deeded, blah, 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 blah. And then if it's older than, I think it's 15 years, then it's, you get access to it either way because it's, but it's with the financing, it's going to be the tough part. So, I mean, that's just kind of something I experienced here recently that I thought, I was like, man, we're not gonna have any access, but then I met some owners, and also having a good survey guy. The title company didn't catch up on anything. It was actually my survey guy that actually dug deep and found a form deep from 1985 that was able to get that access and show, which didn't save the deal, but it was good enough. So working with the land deal, got 2 working right now out of the campaign.
Awesome.
Ran into a lot that were on the MLS.
Weird.
So, but other than that, it's been I am at my goal. I just wanted 1 to pay for the campaign. I think we're going to wrap that up here shortly.
Awesome.
And then do another campaign. But I enjoy land.
Yeah.
I prefer it closer to me. So I can go see it, feel it, touch it. I feel just seems like it's a better access and better understanding when you can be near it.
Yeah. Helps with your
Because it's,
confidence. Yeah, in a sense.
yeah. And then, looking at other areas, you don't go see it and you don't see that chicken farm down the road. So,
Yeah.
and
Right.
things of that nature, because that's what we do is we come in the oddest way possible. When we go and see land, it's like, okay, there's a dump. There's just trash in the middle of the woods. How far down the dirt road is it, and things of that nature. So, kind of what I've been with it, and it's been good. very knowledgeable and enjoy the group. And Nick's always available, which is important to me because I'm old school customer service. So
Yeah.
that's about all I got.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your wins. And I think that was a very cool little tip. It wasn't even a little tip, that was a big tip you just shared, about, checking out what the neighbors are saying, and you never know, to your point, like, about he's already been driving past here the last 10 years. I mean, might as well sign I've already gotten used to it. It's already been happening. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
I
think,
mean, and that's how we come to find out the owner was someone wanted to look at the property and guys, like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm good, and then later down the road it benefits. So not just looking at the property, look at your surroundings.
yeah, love it. All right, great. All right. And then Amanda Camp, I see you got your hand raised. You can go ahead and lay it on
Yeah,
us.
I apologize that my webcam is not working. I
Oh, that's
haven't been
okay.
able to figure out the problem. But anyway, so I do enjoy these sessions. And you had talked about doing more on entrepreneurship, which I love that idea. I was wondering, have you thought about providing more on negotiation training? I know you've got some already, but it's just always kind of a beast, people wanting
Right.
your market value and how you handle different objections, and just some additional training in that respect.
Yeah, I really love that. I'm not, I do love that idea. That's not necessarily my specialty, but I do have somebody in mind. Um, his name's RJ Bates. We've actually, recently become friends.
Okay.
He's really known for converting leads, right? Converting difficult leads would be a good way to say it, right? Like whenever we're far
Yeah.
off with
Okay.
practices and that. And one thing I'll do is to our point is I will look for that. I'll add that to the priority list, right? Is, how do we get someone where we're far off? How do we get them close together? Right. That's kind of
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say a little bit too there.
Yeah. I'm just trying to milk everything I can out of every lead that we contact, so, but yeah, that's just a thought. I really do enjoy these sessions though.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. No, and I think that's great, and keep the feedback coming. I think we're 7-8 weeks in here. I am about to create a content schedule for us. So we're going to know when we have special guest speakers. I am working on bringing a creative finance person in. For me, negotiations isn't as much negotiations as much as it is options, because I like to approach negotiations through service and options. That's the way I like to do it. But I do know that there's a difference between my style and like what RJ does, which is amazingly intense. He's really good at the negotiating part and getting through to people. Actually, Benny just posted his RJ's channel in here. Really good stuff. If you guys get a chance, he'll actually be live on seller calls and record the whole conversion from grumpy seller to close too. So he could also just be a great resource as well. But I'm gonna try to get him on here too, because he's amazing. And then we are also going to be starting doing live seller calls as well. Francisco has even offered up once a week. We're going to ask the clients to bring their leads, and then Francisco's offered to call those leads for them on speakerphone on these calls. So we're going to start doing that once a month. We're going to have a guest speaker once a month, and then we're going to do 2 Q&As once a month is our current plan. So hopefully by the end of July, we'll have that whole schedule mapped out for you guys, but keep the feedback coming. The group is amazing idea. And then what you guys want to see, right? And more negotiations and stuff like that. Cause we've got the connections. I just got to get them in front of you guys. All right. Next up, I think his hand went down, but I want to find him real quick. Hopefully he's not the one that left. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him anymore. Maybe I missed him. But Benny, oh, you know what? Benny?
Yeah, hi. This is my first time on this call, so
Awesome.
I'm excited. Also first time using your services. So I think my campaign just started today.
Okay.
So I haven't received any leads yet. But
Okay.
one of the reason why I raised my hand is I hear a lot of discussion on land. I don't understand land. That's why I don't do land.
Right.
But I have this FOMO because I hear a lot about it. So
Right.
is there somewhere where I can learn more? Maybe I'll be better at land than I am at houses, right? I'm still new at trying to wholesale. So just,
So I,
you know,
so
that's that.
I created this course. I don't know if you've gotten access to my
Yes,
course.
yes, I have.
Okay, so in there, I created a land investing course. Now it's pretty high level. All right. And if you're doing houses, you're gonna understand everything I'm saying in the land course. Okay. It's gonna be about 45, 50 minutes. And it's gonna now I do have a habit of making everything sound simple, because that's how I like things to be. But I think when you're done watching it, you're gonna be like, wow, this sounds so much easier. And I tell you how to talk to the leads and how to sell the leads in that course. Now, it's not like step by step because it's only 45, but it's like, here's what you would do. You could also jump on these calls and then get those step by step procedures. But yeah, I would start there. And then if you like what you hear, feel free to give me a call. And then, you know, like I said, you also have these group calls to tide you over with any of your gaps in education if you have any.
Thank you. And as I wrap up, Francisco, can you tell us when those lead seller calls are or live seller
Uh,
calls?
Yeah, we'll actually be completing the content calendar for you guys by this week. I did get I did get 2 confirmed guests for this month. We're gonna have Jonathan Doe and also the creative finance guy that Nick had brought up. And then I think the last week of the month we can also do the live seller calls as well too. So it'll definitely be this month.
And then it'll be like consistent, like the second Tuesday of every month. Like we'll kind of plan it out like that. So that way we all know which ones to show up to and stuff. I'll try to make it very, very uniformity. All right. Next up, Christopher. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Not much, man. Welcome back.
Yeah, yeah, good to be here.
Absolutely.
I always look forward to this call every week. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I've got a weird situation with a seller. This is a piece of land. He's got an easement on it. It's 11.7 acres of. It's like on a hillside next to a river. Um, it would be it would be hard to develop or very costly to develop. Um, but I noticed that there were a couple like luxury homes built off into that hillside, that same hillside, going for like multi-millions, and they had sold within like the same year. So I was like, because he wasn't interested in a cash offer, wasn't interested in seller financing, but I told him that, and I know builders. I talked to a builder guy after talking to this seller, and you know, him and a handful of other guys, he said he knows that people who might be interested in doing a project like that. So I'm just wondering, how could I guess is there obviously there's some value to bring with making the connection between the builder who would be interested in that and the seller's interested in partnering up rather than just like selling the land to me or,
Right.
you know.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll give my take. What I would do is I would let your role be like, hey, look, like I'm gonna project manage this, right? The seller doesn't want to project manage. If they both decide to do this holy matrimony where the builder shows up and builds and the seller owns the land and then they do this deal, you know, the seller's not going to want to manage all the ins and outs and the details and when are they starting. So I think a part of your value is the connector, right? So you can call that finder's fee or whatever, like you want to mentally. But then the value add is you could like report to them, hey, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you monthly updates or biweekly updates on where we are with this. You know, if you have any questions, I'm your point person. You know, so that would be my suggestion. Almost act like you might introduce them to the builder to provide comfort, but you're going to be like, that's my guy. I'm going to handle everything with him. That's part of the service that I offer, right? And then you can put yourself in the deal by managing that aspect, right? Because when we're wholesaling, we're technically doing the same thing, right? They don't have to mess with the buyers, they don't have to interview and all this other stuff. When we wholesale, we're taking on that service. So what I would ask yourself is like, what is the service exchange here, right? You could, you know, you could try to go to one and say, hey, give me a piece of this, but I think you're better off implanting yourself in the deal as more of like a project manager or a liaison, a concierge, that you're making the homeowner's life, like, I'm here to make your life really easy. That's why you're doing this. If I wasn't here, you wouldn't be doing this, right? Right. You know, so it's like,
Right.
let me continue to make your life easier through this kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm just wondering, yeah, I don't know, overthinking I guess the contractual logistics of that whole thing it seems weird to me, you know. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I don't doubt that. Um, you know, Mason or Francisco, if you guys have any feedback on, you know, just, you know, because you're really just connecting here.
I
And
mean,
that's what,
ideally, if let's say I had a builder who was interested and the seller was, you know, interested in just basically letting them build on his land until they sell the house and they both, you know, obviously make profit, get a big percentage or whatever. I would be fine just taking a really small fee by just
right.
connecting these people and just being out of it. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking the same thing. You know, you could go to the builder, because I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is like probably a bigger windfall to him. You could even try to go to both and be like, hey, look, if I connect you guys, you know, like a $5,000 finder fee, you know, they both pay
Mhm.
it, you make 10K, one pays it, you make 5K, you know, but it's like, hey, like, I am connecting to awesome things here, you know, do my calculations, beep, 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 beep. You
Yeah.
guys are gonna profit $250,000 here out of this, you know, and then I can step aside, or, and this is your segue, or if you want, I can stay involved in project manage and then, you know, earn that $5,000. So, hey, you get me out of your hair, I'm ghost, you're welcome, or you know what, you want me to earn it, you know, and something like that might speak to both of them, because now they're like, well, if I'm going to pay the money, I might as well have him update me, or have him, you know, handle the annoying parts. I gotta tell you guys, I'm very fucking busy. If anyone shows up at my doorstep saying that they're handling fucking anything, I'm in. Okay, the answer is fucking yes, right? Like, I'm not even kidding you. You know, it's like, I'm so capped. I don't have a family, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, and I'm capped. You know, I want all those things, but I'm like, I don't have the stress. So, you know, from someone who does have the money, you know, the service, it's worth it. You know, just to share with you, it's a big gift. And you know, anyone you say this to, they're going to think that sounds like a lot of work. And that's why I think a good segue would maybe be to offer both. Hey, we can do this one of two ways. We can finder fee it, you pay me X,
Yeah.
or I
Write up
can
some sort of like consulting
project.
agreement
Right.
where, you know, where basically just the consultant between those connections, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't know too much about liens, but you know, you could get them agree like, hey, because that's really what it is. You know what? You only pay me when the house sells. So you put $10,000 lien on the property. They both agree to it, however that works, and be like, look, that way I'm gone. So there's a couple of really creative ways I'm sure you could do it, but making them feel like they're in control, and that they get to choose. And you know what I said about those options is good. So I used to date this girl with the kid, and she taught me this really important lesson. She says, with children, it's never, do you want to brush your teeth? Because then they'll say no. It's always, do you want to brush your teeth, or do you want to clean your bedroom? You know, there is no yes or no. We're no longer in yes or noville. So if we use that same psychology on other adults, when we give
Yeah.
them options, they might not be thinking yes or no. So that's the other cool thing I like about multiple options too, for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I use that with my kids too. So I don't know why I didn't think of
Yeah, no, it's ninja.
that.
It's ninja, bro. It's ninja. All right, great. Anything else you got for me, Christopher?
Oh, sorry. Does anybody else have their hand up right now? Doesn't no.
No, not at the moment.
I've
Mason
me.
mentioned to create an ovation agreement with the seller as a percentage or a fee for it. outline all the responsibilities of all parties. And I mean, yeah, that's basically what this is, like a sense of novation, right? We're just
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I'll look into that. Yeah, I've noticed that I've been in a lot more of um, consulting position, like when it comes to these land deals. You
Yeah,
know, it's like
right.
or at least the leads that I'm getting right now aren't necessarily like straightforward wholesale or buy, throw it back on the market, seller finance sort of things. It's like this kind of like complicated consultation sort of thing where, we got one now who I've been talking to, and she's like stressing about getting the land cleared and like mowing it and all this and that. And, but at the same time, she's like not willing to sell it at a discount for me to do those things too, right? So it's like, we're just on the corner of intersecting highways. And it's in the county, it's not in the city, so there's no zoning restrictions. So I was like, well, if you're looking to increase values, like, have you talked to the mayor about rezoning it to commercial? She's like, oh, that's a great idea. That would be great if I could do that. Do you think it's in the city? I'm like, no, it's not in the city, blah, blah, blah. Which if they could just go talk to the mayor and they get his own commercial, throw it on the market, they would just, obviously just make all the money. That would be their deal, right?
Right.
So I'm, yeah, I found myself just like trying to like find ways to wedge myself, like
Right.
even
Right.
as being transparent as I am with the sellers.
Yeah. No, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're finding people in need, but you're not necessarily finding people that want to sell. Like they're like, hey, I got this land, I want to do something with it. How can you help? And they're not really saying, yes, I want to sell. They're more or less saying, yes, there's an issue with this property that I'm encountering, right? Is kind of what I'm hearing. And then because your real option is to buy, right? Now that's like the first and foremost. And they're like, well, hey, the first one didn't want to sell, but might want to build if there's a lot of profits in it. The next one sounds like
The people with a lot of options.
Right, right. And that's why maybe you start reframing it, back to what, Mason was saying. It's like, or what you were saying, maybe you start learning that having a land consulting firm, hey, yeah, absolutely. I can dive into this. I can look around for $500. I'll figure out what needs to be done to get this, and then we can go to the next steps. Right. And that's actually an interesting lead generation way. If you keep finding yourself, and what you're saying is these people will talk to me, right?
Yeah.
They're talking to me, but they're not signing a contract yet. They're not interested in selling, but they're telling me their problems. And I think if I solve their problems, they'll sell me the property. But what I would almost do is be like, hey, look, I do two things. One, I can help consult and guide you how to get this land where you want it to go, or two, I can buy the land. Which one are you looking for? Oh, you want the consulting route. Great. Well, I do that for a fee. Okay. And so if you want, and then that fee can be nominal or large, whatever you want. But what you might end up discovering may be the next roadblock that does make them want to sell. That's what I'm getting at. Does that make sense? Let's say you do dive in. I mean, this is how lead mining was created. So it's not like I'm talking about creating a company out of midair. If you're going to do the legwork and you're going to help them out and they're comfortable talking to you, you might as well do something about that. And then that solution you find could be like, you know what? I don't want to do that. Do you still want to buy it? Right. So then you still have your option dangling there the whole time. And so it's almost another way for you to generate a follow-up sequence. Hey, did you ever figure out what to do with that land? No. Okay. Still don't want to sell it? Right. Now you're like a double following up. Do you want me to help you figure out the zoning issues, or do you want me to, do this, or to buy it outright cash? So that would be a creative aspect on what I would do with that. So at lead mining, I'll just share this lesson with you. I think when you create a business, you ask yourself what keeps getting attracted to you, right?
Yeah.
So when I was founding lead mining, I was like, dude, real estate investors are all over me. Okay. Like what can I do It's like I'm a magnet. They're everywhere. This was before this company ever came about. And it's like we cannot ignore, just back to entrepreneurship foo-foo stuff, we cannot ignore what the universe is attracting to us. And that's literally the definition of opportunity, which goes back to what we were saying in the beginning about something being different every day. Whether it's problematic deals, a lot of those, solve those problems. Take that knowledge, close more deals. Or if it's, oh, a lot of people are coming with these other problems. Well, maybe I need to pivot and come up with now a creative marketing strategy. That's like, hey, looking, you know, are you looking to figure out what to do with your land? I'll help you do that. Right. And then, you know, and I might end up being the option. I might also buy it from you too, you know? And so when we think about those creative options, same thing about a realtor. The most successful realtors in the world flip houses. Right?
Mhm.
Oh, you want to sell this house? Oh yeah, it looks like a real shithole. How much? Okay, I'll buy it myself. Boom. You know, so it's like we got to think about these other strategies that can feed us in multiple ways too.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's interesting. Yeah, I have kind of felt starting to see like a small seed of a somewhat of a
Pattern.
niche. Sorry, yeah, a pattern, sort of a
Right.
niche here.
That's right.
So
Yeah, and don't
The-
ignore that. Lean into the first. Here's my advice: lean into the first 10. You know, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Leave it alone. Lean into the first 10. Holy shit, that worked. This is it now. Like I said, remember the complaints and the compliments, right? It's like pursue it. Let the results tell you if you should keep pursuing it. If it's a compliment, you know, we keep doing the compliments. You know, if it benefits you.
right.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah,
do we
cool.
have the curiosity? Do you guys have a list like that? That's a difficult list?
Um, a,
A
a, a,
challenge list? I mean,
a,
lists that you know that
a list like what?
let's say no easements or things of that nature, or you
Oh,
have
yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. You know,
I
data
want that
tree,
list. I want
that,
that list.
yeah, right. Well,
No, I asked first, and we could wrestle for it. I'm 6'3".
yeah. Well, see, and this is the benefit, right, of asking a question like that, being in a group, because becomes a whole nother lead generation strategy all of a sudden that, you know, we just create out of thin air. Data tree does have a bunch of zoning recommendations. I'm totally down to test those out. For the average client's purchase, I tell them not to, like, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but I can filter by what they're calling like nearby characteristics. I think I can filter if there's a road nearby or a highway nearby or certain things like that. What I can do, if Francisco, if you'll help me, let's get a list of all of some of the characteristics that may apply to this. And then maybe I'll create the Facebook group for us today. And then we can start keeping all of the resources that we talk about in there. But then I can post a list of that. And if you guys want, you can see exactly what I can pull based off zoning or characteristics and stuff.
I will say one of the side to another avenue, but one of the exit strategies I have been using with land that's been helpful, even when people are asking a little too much, is that I really tell them, look, I'm not going to be interested in that price. Well, why don't you give me that opportunity with no fees or anything to, I have investors. I have a wall of investors that may want to be interested. And I send them a contract, put under contract, and just send it out there as just getting the opportunity, and then get it out there and say, well, this is my response.
Right.
I'm not getting anything less than, you're asking 100K and I've gotten not one offer of 50K. You're not advertising this, but you want to sell it in a way. But here's my opportunity for you.
And you know, and I know I love that. And I'll make that make sense real quick. In another way, I know that we could tell, and I love the transparency. He brought up what he was going to do. I'm gonna fish it out. We'll see what comes back. I'm just sharing with you the offers I got back. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I'm applying for a loan right now. Very similar to the exact process he just spoke about. In my head, of course, I've got all the numbers figured out. I want $200,000 at 5%. Right? Of course, I have that in my head, right? Now that doesn't exist, okay, but that's what I want. So then I go out and I get I swear, this is a true story. This is a true story. So then I get the guy's like, you're approved, dude. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, what's the percentage? He's like 45%. That's it, dude. You got approved. And here's the offer I got. And now to Joe's point, I could accept or reject these offers, right? It's like, it doesn't mean, even though we could be saying, oh, well, you know, the contract said this, Nick, you know, are we out of integrity doing this? No, you're not. The same thing as like when I applied for this loan, I've got figures in my head too. But, you know, over the days, different loan options come in, and the same thing happens with buyers. So, Joe, I really like that as a strategy as well. It's very transparent, and it allows you now to have another negotiating power that has nothing to do with you. Hey, this isn't, I'm not telling you if there's something wrong with the price. The offers are telling us that there's something wrong with the price here, right? So it really helps pivot that conversation too. Joe dropping some nuggets over there today. Thank you so much. And Joy, I did.
Yeah,
see
I mean, because you get back to, well, Joe, I understand, well, why, and then you kind of give them a why, and then, well, I didn't know that, and you know the way you know, this lady that I sold this property, you know, went from 100,000, 45,000 to 25,000 because I explained to her, look, you have a no access, and she goes, well, I don't understand what that means. That means that you're going to have to go pay $3,000 to $4,000. Do you have that? One, two, and then do you have the knowledge to go get somebody to research this to find the access points to this property? Well, no. Well, I have all that, and that's what we can do for you. That's why your property's at 50, not at 100. So it helps open up avenues to educate. And if anything, when working with clients, I help educate. I don't sell you, I educate you. Why is your property worth this? So the whys are always good.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of these strategies also answer the first question, one of the questions we had about negotiations, right? This is really what negotiations looks like. There's nothing magical we're going to say to get someone to bring the price down, but we could give them perspective. We could explain to them what's going to happen, right? Well, it's like, well, this $40,000 comes from somewhere because that's what it's going to take to get a road to this property. Same thing with flippers, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to have to put $100,000 into this house. Right? Do you have $100,000? No, you don't. So we're going to take $100,000 off, and then I'm going to get it from you. So it's a very, I kind of like you relating those, especially to anyone doing houses in here. I think what you mentioned was very relatable because it is important to focus on the pain points of the land and of the cost that, you know, hey, like this is, we mentioned the consulting. This is, you don't have to do the research or figure it out. You don't have to pour the concrete or figure that out, right? Or anything like that. So very, very good stuff there. All right. Well, before we get out of here, I know Joy had her hand up. She always blesses us weekly with the great question. So Joy, I did not want to miss you this week. Go ahead and lay it on us.
My question is a little complex. Actually, so I'm gonna wait till next week.
Okay. You sure?
But another question I did have, you mentioned a friend of yours that does funding for just different types of things that you said you would share. I was trying to find the name. I think it was, is it Yates, Gary Yates or something? I don't know. You mentioned somebody that you were going to share the contact of. So I don't know if you.
You know, for funding for land, it's Mason, and then the other person I believe I mentioned was dispoing for houses or land nationwide. Where I think the two people that that came up to me. What was the funding for?
You just mentioned a friend. I'll find the name. I wrote it down somewhere. But that was like a side question. My major question was a little bit more about structures on land, both from, you know, addressing it and actually searching for homes with acreage versus having land that has some type of structure on it that you really don't need or don't really care for. So we can address that at the next call, but I just wanted to just see what your thoughts were and strategies around that, particularly also Mason and Francisco, just to hear about their experience with that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'll make sure if you will write that down, and we'll make sure we'll get that knocked out first thing on our next call.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any final questions, anything before we get out of here? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Another great week in the books, and I'll see you next Tuesday. See you guys.
Peace out.
Thanks so much. God bless. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.